Okay, so let's talk about this philosopher named George Hegel. Okay, so Hegel is a German philosopher, and then the German philosopher that we learned about last time was Kant, Immanuel Kant. He was born maybe 30 or 40 years after Immanuel Kant, and then while he was growing up, a major event in human history, French Revolution was going on. Yeah. So originally he wanted to become a minister, which is the church leader, but he saw what was going on in society and he was deeply touched with the French Revolution and its ideas. So he started studying philosophy. Yeah. And then he started studying philosophy of history in particular. Okay, so he was a young, poor tutor, but after his dad passed away, he inherited a sizable sum of money so he could study with that money. So he became a professor at the University of Berlin, and then he was a very famous and popular professor. All the students wanted to take his class. So some students were just like standing in the back of the classroom just to take his lesson. Okay, so Hegel's view of the history is really unique. But before introducing to you his view of the history, let's talk about the general and common view of the history. So history for most of us would be close to the description made by Henry Ford. Henry Ford is a businessman who started the company Ford Motors. Yeah, and then he described history as just one damn thing after another. 그냥 하나 일어나고 다음에 뭐 또 일어나고 그러는 게 history지. He's a T-type businessman. He's very, analytical and then logical. Yeah, he didn't have any sentiment in his mind, right? Yeah, so for most of us, history is just a random things happening without any plan, right? But Hegel had a very unique view of the history. He thought that history is not random. Oh, hey, don't talk to each other. Please fix your eyes on the screen. Okay, so according to Hegel, history is not random and history happens for a reason. And then everything is driving towards a better direction. Okay, so according to Hegel, what is history? What is the definition of history? So for him, history is a process of expanding human freedom gradually over and over. Yeah, so history is the growth of human freedom. So humanity always has improved their place. For example, 2,000 years ago, only a small portion of the population were the royalty and an aristocracy, but most of the people were farmers and peasants and slaves. But do we have slaves in the modern day, everybody? No. Humans have been expanding their freedom and history has been evolving for a reason. That was the view that Hegel held. Okay, then what is the power? What is the driving force behind history? So Hegel thought it was called the zeitgeist. Could you guys repeat after me? Zeitgeist. Oh, okay. After me, zeitgeist. Zeitgeist. That's German word. And then if we were to translate that into Korean word, that's 시대 정신. 시대 정신. Not 시대인재. It's 시대 정신. Yeah. I'm sure that 시대인재 founders people, they copied that from the 시대 정신. Yeah. So 시대 정신, spirit of the age, the zeitgeist is driving the history forward. And according to Hegel, there was never one moment or one age we experienced the history going backwards. We were always moving forward, and then we were always expanding our freedom. Okay, so we are going to look at the zeitgeist, the spirit of the age of the Western world, and then the Korean world. Okay, so in the 15th century in the Western world, at that time, the 시대 정신 of 15세기, it was Renaissance. and then age of exploration. So they developed technology, naval technology, so they could go around the world, and then explore, right? And then 16th century, it was the Reformation, which was questioning the Catholic authority and then starting a new church, which was Protestantism. 개신교를 시작했지, right? 종교 개혁, that's right. And then 18th century, it was the Enlightenment, 계몽주의. People started recognizing that all the human beings, they share the same human rights and we deserve liberty. So French Revolution, American Revolution were happening at that time. Like, do you hear the people sing? That is the 18th century. And then what about the zeitgeist of 19th century? That is Industrial Revolution, started by the steam engine, right? 20th century. So let's divide the 20th century into the first half and then the second half. The first half, it was a world wars, and people thought that humanity was in crisis. And then the rise of totalitarian regimes like Nazi and then Mussolini and then Japanese colonialism and then communism like in North Korea. Then in the second part of the 20th century, Cold War, there was a rivalry between Soviet Union and then the US. And then later in the 80s and 90s, rise of consumer culture. People started consuming Hollywood movie, and then they started decorating themselves in luxury and comfort. What about the zeitgeist of today's world, 21st century? It's the climate awareness. Because we have been consuming so much without regard to the environment, we are really concerned about the sustainability and then the climate issues. What about Korean zeitgeist? What about 한국의 시대 정신? In the 15th century, it was Confucianism, 유교 사상. Right. And then 18th century, it was 실화. Do you guys? Have you guys heard of 실화? So it's about developing technology and then practical reforms, right? What about the 19th century? It was anti-foreign sentiment. So 흥선대원군. He was being really conservative, and then he wanted no influence from the foreign countries. And then there was 동학 peasant uprising, right? 동학농민운동. And then 20th century, early 20th century, it was a very dark and bleak period. Japanese rule. So independence movement, that was the zeitgeist of the Korean world. What about 1950년에서 2000년까지 economic growth, miracle of the Han River, 한강의 기적, democratization. We didn't have democracy until 1980년대, but we toppled down the tyrants, and then we established democracy, and then education-driven society. So all the Korean, aspects of the family life and social life, they were very focused on education. What about the zeitgeist of 21st century in Korea? Focus on personal happiness, work-life balance. So for the beginning part, for the latter half of the 20th century, Koreans worked so hard for the miracle of Han River. But now, we don't want to work that hard. We don't want to exhaust ourselves. Work-life balance is more important. And then Hallyu, like Korean culture is dominating the world scene, right? So these are the zeitgeist, right? Okay. So what are the individual roles in driving the zeitgeist forward, everybody? So according to Hegel, history is a series of revolutions, and one individual affects another person, and genius comes after another. So as an individual, we are the tool of the zeitgeist. We are the instrument of the zeitgeist. So just like the stones are piled upon each other, we individuals, we aren't really aware that we are being used as an instrument. But by doing our best in each of our career, we're actually unwittingly, like while not being aware, we are being the tool and instrument of the zeitgeist. Spirit of the age. That was what Hegel thought. Okay, so he had this symbol, L of Minerva, 미네르바의 올빼미, and then he said that 미네르바의 올빼미는 지혜를 상징하는 거예요. So this is an animal which symbolizes wisdom and knowledge and truth. And then he said that the owl of Minerva flies only at dusk. Dusk is the time when the sun sets and when it starts getting dark, right? So Minerva was the Roman goddess of wisdom. So what he wanted to say by the symbol was that wisdom and understanding in the course of human history will reveal itself not early in the stage, but only after, at a later stage. So, in the beginning of the human history, we don't really know why certain things are happening, like slavery and world wars and blah, 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 blah. We don't really know why those events happen. But then as we move towards the later ages, we come to, realize that, wow, those were the things, those were the stepping stones for the humanity to make this advancement, to gain the knowledge, to the truth. So right now, we're in the midst of this age. We're in the middle of the age, so we don't really know why those things are happening to us and why we have to, do this and that. But our descendants, our children are going to find out later. Wow, that generation did this for that reason, okay? So the truth is revealed only at the later stage, okay? Okay. 많이 없죠. 요거 두 개는 그냥 빠르게 하도록 할게요. So, the process through which truth is arrived at can be explained by this process called 정반합. Okay, so thesis is 정. It's like a person or a group of scholars or a group of individuals putting forward an idea or theory. Okay, then 예를 들어가지고 맨 처음에는 우주의 중심이 지구라고 생각했니? 아니면은 선이라고 생각했니? 지구가 짱이야. 인간이 짱이야. 그랬잖아, 그치? So people believed in the geocentric theory, right? That is the one theory, right? 근데 antithesis, that was developed by Copernicus. No, it's solar-centric universe, right? 그러면은 이제 그거를 이제 뭐 조합을 해가지고 이렇고 해가지고 새로운 이론이 나오는 거야. 근데 뭐 이거는 뭐 하나의 예시이긴 하지만 이거에 대한 또 반대가 나와. 그러면은 그것도 조합이 나와. 또 반대가 나와. 그래서 맞아. 그래서 진실을 찾아 나가는 과정은요, 정반합이라고 생각했어요. So, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, which is the combination or compromise between the two, moving on and on and on, and that's how our knowledge developed. Okay? Yeah, so writing topic, summarize his arguments, agreements, and then criticism. All right, thank you.